You take a look at that starting 11. There weren't that many players missing who have been so key to the success. Of course, Virgil van Dijk. And of course, Henderson is playing at the back.
You can't see that.
But surely,
and Fabinho as well.
Surely the quality that is on the pitch has got to do better than we saw in this game. They've got to create chances. You've still got Mane and Firmino and Salah up front.
I think the front three 100% have to take a lot of the weight of the problems that Liverpool have got right now, because what's going on behind them is getting changed every single time they step on the field, pretty much. And so you're never going to be able to live up to what you previously did in the past 2 seasons if you're constantly doing that. But the front three, no question, the 3 of them are absolutely struggling big time. You talk about picking the wrong pass at the wrong time, and that's exactly what they've been doing for the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks. So I think absolutely you can give Liverpool a pass from the middle of the park to the back, but you can't not give a pass to the front three. The front three have been absolutely underwhelming.
Frank?
Dan, if you can you imagine that Manchester City losing Ruben Diaz and Stones and playing with, I don't know, Gundogan and Rodri at the back? Don't you think that the game of Manchester City will be different? I think Henderson and Fabinho, they do well at the back. They do what they can do, but in the middle of the park, they will be so helpful and much more than Thiago Alcantara and Jones, with all due respect for them, because they're talented player. But defensively, when they press the opponent, with the 3 at front, with Henderson and Fabinho, it's another story. And that you cannot avoid the problem that the fact that Van Dijk, Matip, and Gomez are not there. And they try to build something which is not stable, which is completely unbalanced for me, comparing to the 2 last seasons.
So does Klopp get a pass overall then, Stevie?
Yes. Listen, if Liverpool were doing what they're doing with a full squad, then absolutely you could have a go at him and every single one of them, because they've set a standard for themselves, and part of our job is to keep them to that. And then when they drop down it, then they're open for criticism. But when you've got the problem that they've got, you can't be pointing the finger at anybody in particular. As I said, as a unit, the front three have been really poor, but you can't point the finger at Klopp. I mean, what's he supposed to do? He's sitting down every day he comes in, trying to figure out what team he's going to put out. And he's got to decide whether he plays Henderson in the middle of the park or centre-back, or do I play one of the young kids again who've been making mistakes, or do I play the other kid, or do I play the guy we've just bought? I mean, that's his thought process right now. It's not about, how are we going to do this now? How are we going to get the full-backs forward, and how are we going to get the midfielders in the penalty box? He's trying to figure out what team he's putting on the park before he even thinks about anything else.
What doesn't help his cause, though, is these pre-match comments about the 2 weeks, because already it's excuse time. Isn't it?
Absolutely, listen, I'm with Stevie here. I think Liverpool, especially if Liverpool finish top 4, you have to give Klopp a pass. On the one hand, Liverpool have hardly had any injuries to deal with. They become European champions and then Premier League champions. And just by the law of averages, you figure that they would have to deal with some absences this season. Compile on that the pandemic and what it's meant with this compressed season, and it's made it all the worse for Liverpool. Klopp hasn't helped himself in what he's had to see. And for me, that is where the pressure is coming from, not necessarily where they currently sit in the table. And to your point, Dan, or to your question previously about Liverpool's, the names on the team sheet. If you just look at the names on the team sheet, yes, it's still an incredible team. But when you consider that Fabinho and Henderson, 2 midfielders, are playing as your centre-backs, that challenge by Fabinho, albeit the penalty was missed, is so typical of somebody playing out of position. Add to that you have young Jones and Thiago playing in midfield, and not Fabinho and Henderson. And I made the point during the highlight that in the first Gundogan goal, despite the red shades, nobody drops deep enough to pick up Gundogan so that for the follow-up. Had that been Fabinho or Henderson sitting in front of that back four, I think they're there. I think that they, at the very least, have put Gundogan under pressure, and it's not the tap-in. That makes a whole lot of difference. The other thing to me is I think Thiago is brought into this Liverpool team to play against defences that are sitting in their own box. Thiago wants to be playing 10 yards outside the opponent's box, picking those passes. That's his strength, not playing 5 or 10 yards outside his own box, tracking the runs of Foden and Gundogan.
We talked about... Go on, Stevie.
Dan. Do you know what? Klopp's missed a trick here. Because over the last couple of seasons, the football that Liverpool have played, the positive the attitude that he's had, the big smile on his face, laughing and being friendly, and the whole football world were delighted to just watch Liverpool play. It was a joy. All he had to do was keep his mouth closed and just say, you know what, we'll fight through this. Sometimes this happens. And everybody would have been with him. Instead of, even his own supporters are like, oh, don't start with the nonsense again and the sour grapes and the complaining. He's absolutely missed a trick. He could have had the rest of the football world still eating out his hand by just accepting the way things are, because regardless of what he said, changing.
ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.